Okay, now we're going to look at solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. This is a given expression that you have to learn for the exam. There's no getting out of it. And we'll look at that formula in a minute and see what we can do with it. So here's the formula. Our general equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And here's our example that we seem to be using quite a lot. X squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0. Use the quadratic formula to solve this. So the quadratic formula, you may have heard of it, you may not. It's x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2 times a. Now it looks complicated. I had to learn it when I was about 10 or 11, so it's just a case of remembering it. If you can't remember it, but you can complete the square, then completing the square would give you exactly the same formula at the end of the day. So let's look at an example here, x squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0, and see how to use the formula. Right, here, x squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0. In this equation, a equals 1, b equals minus 8. Be very careful when you're using this equation to get your pluses and your minuses correct. And c equals 15. So if we stick that into the formula, we have x equals minus b, so that's minus 8, plus or minus the square root. We have to do minus 8 squared, and then subtract 4 times a times c. So that's minus 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 15. All divided by 2 times a, which is 2 times 1. So if we simplify all that, the minus 8 at the beginning becomes 8, plus or minus the square root of, well, we've got minus 8 squared, which is 64. And then 4 times 1 times 15 gives us 60, so we have 64 minus 60, and we take the square root of all that, all divided by 2, which simplifies to 8 plus or minus the square root of 4, because 64 minus 60 is 4, all divided by 2. We all know the square root of 4 is 2, or minus 2, that's where the plus or minus comes in. So we have 8 plus or minus 2 over 2. That gives us our two solutions. So for the first one, 8 plus 2 is 10, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So one of the solutions is x equals 5. The other solution is done by taking the subtraction. So 8 minus 2 is 6, and 6 divided by 2 gives us 3. And everybody's happy because we've got the same answer as we have for the previous screencasts. And that's how to use the formula. The problem is just remembering the formula. So here are our friendly equations again. You know the answers to all these already, but now try and solve these using the formula. Pause the video and then we'll just double check that you've got the answers again. And here are the answers. Hopefully you've got all those. Again, just take care when you're using your negatives and positives. Here the b is minus 8. In this one the c is minus 40. Squaring these and subtracting these, just take care when you're doing that. If you do that, everything will work out. If they ask you to solve a quadratic equation using the formula, or they ask you just to solve a quadratic equation, and say they ask you for the answer to 2 decimal places or so many significant figures, then it's probably a case that you need to use the formula so that you can work out the answers. And it will probably be on a calculator paper as well. That's the thing to look out for in an exam.